Oh, Scientology.
Party at the Church of Scientology. There's a place in Florida where you've got friends. We'll help you present if you give us those ends. Party at the Church of Scientology. Don't call it a cult, you just don't understand. Write us a check and take our hand. Party at the Church of Scientology. There's a place.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Scientology and Cult stream. If you notice, we have a guest. Doug, what's up?
Hey.
What's up? Ashley, nice to finally meet you.
Nice to see you too. I love the interview that you and Dave did a while ago. I watched it a couple of times. It was really, really good.
Thank you very much. I missed you. I know you had to be out of town that weekend, but it was really it was a great conversation. I wish you were there. How do I pull you up on the screen so I can see you guys? This is my first Skype attempt. All I can see is the Church of Scientology. Is that what I'm supposed to be seeing? I need to get rid of that immediately.
In the top right corner of the Skype screen, there's a little box and like some parenthesis thingies. If you click on that and you go to Modern Grid Preview, that should bring up all of us.
Grid view, okay. Oh, Modern Grid Preview. Okay, there we are. Thank you.
All right.
Fucking A.
You're welcome.
Fucking A.
Operating Thetan, highest state there is.
What OT level did you get to, Dave and Ashley? Did you ever take their personality test? I know Dave had some involvement with Scientology, but did you ever cross paths with them in any way, shape, or form?
I may now, knowing what I know now, I may go take one just for shits and giggles.
I wouldn't recommend it, seriously.
You wouldn't recommend it?
No, because I knew it was bullshit, and I was doing it for shits and giggles. But believe it or not, a lot of people do that, by the way, and some people get captured. Did you see the Reckless Ben?
Oh yeah.
That they did. He actually kind of got a little brainwashed.
We refer back to that. We refer back to that a lot of times whenever we're talking about cults and cult-like mentality, about how easy it is to brainwash somebody, even though they're expecting it.
Exactly.
And it just happens. And like trying to deprogram yourself from something like that, like takes twice as long as it would once you got programmed in the first place. And the way that I kind of interpreted that whole thing was, it's like watching it from that perspective. It's like they start out with, tell me about a painful moment, and then they turn that painful moment around as to something that you should appreciate for the experience, thus like negating pain and strife and conflict and anything like that as something that is positive and good for you, rather than that is something that is negative, and it's okay to feel negatively about bad experiences.
It's amazing. The whole thing starts with exactly what you just said. I just finished watching this series on HBO called The Vow, which is about Nexium, which is literally a step-by-step ripoff of Scientology. And they do, like all the cults do, exactly what you just described. They turn something negative or vulnerable about yourself, or not being able to push through something. They reframe that in a positive way. And that's kind of the hook that gets you to follow along with the rest of the program. And it's like, it starts out exactly like you said. Mm-hmm. Isn't that a trip, though, that something so simple of a reframe? Because that's what Scientology, Landmark, that's with all these, they reframe a bad experience or a traumatic experience, and then make it sound like something you need to push through, something you need to overcome, or something that's good for you. And just that little switch. And if you have any empathy, or you're a real human in any way, and you're not a psychopath, you're probably going to be vulnerable and fall a little bit into that, like I did, because I felt unmanipulatable, but I wanted to fix my problems like anybody else. And it's that reframe that you just mentioned is how the whole goddamn trap fucking works.
Right. Well, you go in for a personality test, and the next time you're like, thank you for handing me the toothbrush to scrub this floor with. I appreciate it. That's fucking awesome.
Isn't that fucking amazing? And one of my, she wasn't like a really good friend, but I did know Nazanin a little bit when we were at the, she was the one that got manipulated to marry Tom Cruise and literally scraped, toilet bowls with a toothbrush. And here's a lovely, intelligent woman that, like you said, she probably herself would say, I can't believe that I went from personality test to this whole thing with Tom Cruise and scrubbing motherfucking, toilet with the toothbrush.
That's crazy.
We joke about having to scrub things with a toothbrush around here, but the only reason it's even funny is because it's real.
This would be hilarious, and I do laugh at it a lot, and I can even laugh at myself if it wasn't actually happening to people and hurting them and breaking up families and causing suicides and all that. It's absolutely so ludicrous and over the top funny, but it's actually real. It's like the Truman Show. It's actually happening.
I think that the more that the downfall of Scientology not only has kind of the pandemic kind of like really accelerated it, but the fact that it is ridiculed so much everywhere. It is the butt of everybody's, like the Catholics are like breathing a sigh of relief right now, right? Because Scientology has taken the front end of all the fucking bullshit and like
breathing a sigh of relief in some form. Yeah. But especially the Catholic Church, because I said even in an interview that Scientology is going to take a while to catch up with the Catholic Church in terms of the damage, the pedophilia, and all that the crap that goes on, and everybody knows about that. But
fuck, they have a while to catch up to Ronald McDonald as far as like body count and shit too. So we kind of just jumped right into it here. But Doug, before we get started, can maybe people in the chat who don't know who you are, can you give them a real quick like introduction to what and who Doug is, and maybe why you're here?
Man. Yeah. I don't even know myself. All I know is that the world shut down in March. And all of a sudden I'm sitting on the couch one day and I've been processing Scientology, like what the fuck happened to me for 12 and a half years. And I didn't feel like ever really speaking out about it until I knew what the fuck I was actually talking about. Because a lot of people come out, they're damaged, and they sort of reform a new cult and shit. So I just wanted to avoid all that, man. I've literally spent over a decade trying to deprogram from this fucking thing. And rebuild my life from the scratch. So all of a sudden during the pandemic, I just said, fuck it. I'm going to jump on YouTube. There'll probably be 5 people that watch this video, but I'm just going to get it off my chest. And so it launched like a whole thing where I think I'm up to video 12, 13, 15, something like that now. I've been, for the last 3 or 4 months, it's been awesome that anybody even gives a shit, but it's been really cathartic to actually talk about this live, put it out there. Not hide, and just say what happened. And then that's how I did this channel. I knew nothing about YouTube, social media. I didn't have a fucking computer, a television, nothing. So it's been really cool to learn how to be creative during this time, get this shit off my chest and heal, and then learn all about computers, editing. I just got Adobe Premiere, which I'm learning how to use. So even though the world's falling apart, I've had a pretty good 4 months in terms of being able to be creative in some fashion when you can't even really leave your house, I guess, So that's how all this shit started. And I'm just going to do the thing in 4 seasons. The first season is going to finish after this next episode. That's how I got into Scientology. The second season is going to be how I moved out to Los Angeles, became an actor in the Hollywood, and how I was a Scientologist for 15 years. And then the last season is going to be the deprogramming process, how the fuck I got out, which was the most challenging part. It's much easier to be in Scientology rather than trying to get the fuck out. And then the last season will just be answering anybody's questions, tying this shit up. And I think at the end, even if somebody's not a cult member, they're definitely going to get something out of it, because there is like sort of a wrap up at the end of it. I'm not putting people into my own cult, but it's funny reverse engineering this whole thing, kind of taking the trap apart, which is what I'm trying to do. And then at the end, it'll be a cathartic relief for myself, as well as people that are watching it might be able to relate to their own cult experience, or might not even realize that they're actually in one. That's my goal anyways.
Yeah, one of the things we first noticed about you, and one of the reasons we had to talk to you, is like you were saying you didn't want to get involved in like another cult, and you waited before, like, to collect your thoughts before you started talking. And I mean, you waited a long time, and you talk about this stuff in like a matter-of-fact way that's like really accessible to a lot of people, in like a way that maybe some of the creators out there who do this kind of content, who might consider themselves more serious, don't really have access to. Either they don't have access to it within themselves, or they just don't have access to that as a performer or a content creator. And so that was like the first thing we noticed about you, is that it wasn't like dry and technical. It was fun. It was personal. We kind of felt like we were coming to you to listen to you tell us a story, versus like kind of this this sort of there's like a couple tracks in the X scene, and like whatever, the X scene has been very good to us as content creators, but there's a couple tracks in there. One of them's like the hard skeptic track, and the other one's the, you know, like the, well, there's another track there. It's people who they seem to kind of want to be famous, right? And we didn't get any of that from you. And like I said, I don't want to, you know, like Media Wench here always says, is that, you know, when you get out of that, you cope how you have to cope, and if how you cope is by getting involved in maybe an X group that has some of the trappings of Scientology as like one of your steps on the way out, that's like, nobody should be surprised that that happens. But we just found your content to be like super accessible. And I mean, I don't know, we were like, oh, this guy smokes weed.
Yeah, you picked up on that the first, that's why I reached out to you guys and made that video. I was like, these guys are people after my own heart. And it took you about 5 minutes to figure that out. That was fucking funny, man. I really appreciate that, by the way, guys, because I was a little intimidated coming out talking about this because I've never done it before. You know, I honestly, hand on heart, I don't fear these people whatsoever. That's the main tactic that they use. They brought me beyond fear, they took me to a point where I don't kind of give a shit about that. But I'm just saying, I was a little bit, there's a lot of trepidation coming out because I never did it before. And that video that you put out and me being able to riff off of what you guys put there was really helpful because I wanted to put, I mean, I'm a small channel. They don't give a fuck that again, it's kind of a different scene anyways. I'm kind of a nobody, but it did help to put them on notice that, you know, if you're going to try any tactics or to intimidate me, I'm going to, you know, document it, put it on the channel. Like, I'm not going to be bowed down like, you know, maybe other critics. So I really appreciated that video, by the way. It helped me right out of the gate to, because I haven't gotten any resistance, my man. You know what I mean? Like, there was a couple of threats at the beginning on Reddit and what have you. They're little operatives, you know, hey, I see, is that your, you know, black SUV outside, and little, you know, things like that to try to get in your head and shit. But after that video that you guys helped me to do, I haven't had anything happen. So I appreciate it, man.
Well, and we also said that if they come for you, they're coming for us. Like we said that, we never even met you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw it out there, little Mr. Little Channel. We've been on YouTube for like 5 years. We have under 700 subscribers. You've been on there for like 5 months, and you got almost 4,000. So whatever, little channel, and don't blow your own horn.
As I did this AMA, I literally had no idea what I was doing. I didn't think anybody gives a shit. But I just did this AMA like at 4 a.m. one night. Somebody said, hey, go on Reddit and say you're a Scientologist, and then if anybody wants to ask you any questions, you can answer them. I was up for fucking 4 days straight answering. There was all those questions. So that's where the subscribers and stuff came from.
Nice.
But it's still a small, it's still, yeah, nobody's, you know, it's a click niche thing to talk about. Not going to be Joe Rogan status.
No, we don't want to be Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan did the shittiest interview with Leah Remini I ever seen. I would destroy Joe Rogan's interview with Leah Remini if I was ever able to talk to her.
What would you have done differently?
What would I have done differently?
I would love to see you interview her.
I would also interview Kirstie Alley better than fucking Adam Carolla did. All he wanted to talk about was cocaine.
No, my man. They got a little bit into Scientology. I even wrote a comment on their fucking thing like, hey, let me debate Kirstie, you know? Let me, I would love to talk to Kirstie Alley. I would love to see if we could do a deprogramming process over the air. Because I feel like, I mean, I would have so much, I have a lot of compassion for where she's like, you know, when I look at Kirstie, everybody, you might make fun of her or whatever, but they got her at her point when she was a drug addict. And it's the same thing that happened to me, which I was talking about in the videos. I thought weed, which I smoke all the time now, was heroin, according to Scientology. So Kirstie got into it. They hooked her. When, you know, she's a beautiful, attractive, like, you know, would be attracting a lot of snakes in her life anyways. And they fucking Scientology smells that out like a shark smells blood. So they got Kirstie to drop her cocaine habit. And Scientology's hypnosis literally makes you feel like you're on drugs. So when you do their auditing and stuff, you feel like you're doing fucking coke or weed. I said that so many times, like, when I came out of an auditing session, I was like, I totally found what I'm looking for, because I don't have to get high and smoke weed. I literally feel stoned out of my mind. That stone feeling was being disassociated in the auditing sessions, and it makes you feel like you're on drugs. That's why Scientologists look like they're on drugs when they're not, and they look like they're fucking high, you know?
Yeah. They're high on Xenu.
It's
Yeah, well, they're
I would
literally.
make Leah Remini watch Andy Nolch videos with me about L. Ron Hubbard. That's what I
wouldn't
do.
make anybody watch Andy Nolch videos unless they were my worst enemy.
That motherfucker will send me, he'll send me the most random Facebook messages every once in a while, because I'm the only one out of our whole organization that he hasn't blocked. Because when the last time we talked to him, my mom talked to him and tried to deprogram him. Yeah, she was like, "What's your relationship like with your mother?"
No, that's a great question, because that would actually maybe undo some of the stuff. But your mom tried to do an informal deprogramming session. Good luck. He's totally into Scientology.
Oh, she was hammered. She had no idea what she was doing, but it was hilarious. This is pre-video days. We would have got kicked off Twitch for that shit.
That's funny. It obviously didn't work, because he's still a full-on Scientologist. You know, I actually watched.
No, I don't believe he's a Scientologist. I don't believe that he was ever a Scientologist.
Really?
No,
Really?
I think it's all. You know why?
Wow.
Because Dave and I have been fucking with Scientology for, he's much longer than I have, but we know more terminology, which is where I got the idea for this show, which tonight. We know more terminology than Andy Nolch ever throws out. And when you're a real Scientologist, that's just the language you speak. That's like learning Spanish or Italian or anything. It's like Scientology is a language. And when we watch like Scientology videos from Scientology, there's a lot of this terminology in here, and I have some of it on the bingo card. And I think a lot of the people who watch us would want to like better know what all those terms mean. But yeah, he doesn't use any of that shit. He's just, it's like something edgy that gets clicks. And so that's what he's trying to, that's just like an angle he's trying to pull. I don't believe that he was ever a Scientologist or ever in Scientology or, yeah.
Wow.
No.
I never actually thought of that. I figured he was a Scientologist that just went the free zone route. But you're totally right. He's that crazy where he would just make that up. But why would, the funny thing is that would be such a stupid thing to try to grab views or to grab a niche in. I mean, why something so retarded?
Well, why would you draw an 80-foot dick on a lady's fucking memorial either? I mean, the bar is already set pretty low.
Yeah.
The other thing is like, the other thing is like he was trying to be a comedian, and if you ever were to catch, he took his YouTube channel down. I think when he got busted, I think he took all that down. And but if you watched the comedy stuff he was doing, I think the Scientology stuff he was doing was much higher quality.
I mean, yeah, but he was being serious, I thought. Now Ashley says he's just making it all up. Jesus Christ, man.
Well, we don't know.
Somewhere in between. Yeah.
I mean, we don't know, but I like the more I watch real Scientologists, the less I think that he ever was one.
He must have been like a conspiracy theorist, and then he just used the Scientology thing, because he seems to be able to debate that with you guys really well. I watched that video you guys did with him a few years ago, and it was a great conversation, by the way, because you guys are both respectful with each other. But it was hilarious because he's throwing out, some pretty outlandish conspiracies, and you guys were having. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember that dialogue you had before you guys went your separate ways? We
talked to Andy. We talked to Andy like all the time. We were trying to get him to like debate this chemtrail person we know just for shits and giggles. Well, thanks for joining us, and let's get going here on some of these glossary terms, some of this terminology. Maybe not just give the definition, but if you have a story about a time that, like the first time you heard it, or if you were saying it and what context you were saying it in, like a little bit of put that little Doug touch on it, But we got the first one we got is
asking like what was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, kind of what does it mean? And then like, what was your experience inside of the cult with these things, if you had any?
Right.
So the first one we got is easy. It's KSW. What is KSW?
That's one of the very first things that you're going to be introduced to in Scientology. It means keeping Scientology working. And it's this policy the beginning of the framework. And so by repetition, it's trying to put into your mind that Scientology is the shit. It has the technology, and anybody or anything that is getting in the way of that needs to be hammered out of existence. There's like 8 or 9 or 10 different steps. You might even be a new Scientologist and read this, and there's 8 or 9 different steps that it talks about how we have the technology, all incorrect technology must be smashed out of existence. It's this brainwashing bulletin or policy letter that basically right out of the gate says, hits you with this kind of electrified feeling of this is a movement that's really powerful. There's this new technology I've never heard of, and you better fucking follow along and make sure that you follow the steps exactly. I remember Jason Begay was like talking about in his interview about his experience with it when he first got into it. And it was like he was taken back by the fact that, wow, this is bold claims. This is so out there and so like this is the shit that it almost, your mind almost doesn't reject something that might sound ludicrous if it wasn't so fucking bold and bald-faced. So I had the same reaction he did. I was like, wow, right out of the gate reading KSW, this is Scientology's probably the shit. Let me look further.
Cool. Well, thanks. So there are two kind of things that people talk about in Scientology, like more people who don't know as much about it. They'll probably talk about going clear, clearing the planet, and then they might talk about an operating thetan. What's the difference between those two things?
Okay. Scientology is structured and it's compartmentalized. So what you learn at one step changes as you go up. I said it's a secret society because everything's kept compartmentalized and the whole thing twists. I think you're originally going in for your communication course, and then it turns out what you're learning in the communication course, you actually need to become an auditor. And then so the auditor sets you up to be a hypnotist. It's going to abuse somebody else as well. The whole thing shifts. So you think at the beginning of the bridge, you're trying the first major milestone that you're going for. There's 2 of them, clear and operating thetan, like you said. So when you get up to clear, you're told that you're going to no longer have your reactive mind. In human terms, the reactive mind is a word that he substituted for the subconscious mind, which are all the things, of course, that we forget about and the trauma and shit, and we just carry on with our life, but it affects us. So he said by erasing that or getting rid of that, which by the way, why would you want to erase your subconscious? That's like impossible. But he said by getting rid of that, you'll become, right? It's just illogical right out of the gate. But he says by getting rid of your subconscious mind or your reactive mind, you're no longer going to have this chatter in your head. You know, you want to do something, you're going to do it. Nobody's going to intimidate. You're not going to have all these fucking voices in your head, the inner critic, basically, right? So that's what you're going for. So when you get up to clear, all of a sudden, now mind you, it says a being who no longer has his own reactive mind. It says that right on the grade chart. So what you find out when you get up to the operating thetan level is, oh, I forgot to tell you. And this is, again, where it bait and switches and changes. It's all part of the confusion and the mind fuck. This is how you go, by the way, from personality test to scrubbing a fucking, toilet bowl with a toothbrush. So anyways, the goal there is, wait a minute, it's not just you that doesn't have your reactive mind. There's all these motherfucking beings. There's this whole space opera story, which I know you're familiar with, and your listeners will probably be familiar with it. South Park depicts it perfectly. So that is the story. So you go from, I have my own reactive mind, which thank God I have no mind chatter anymore. It's all gone. And by the way, since it's actually hypnosis for 2 weeks, when I achieved the state of clear, I was so disassociated and so high that I didn't feel like I had any fucking problems and that mind chatter was gone. Part of that was the suggestion that they give you when you're being hypnotized. And then also it lasts for a couple of weeks. So I had tested clear. Holy shit, the mind chatter is gone. Just like L. Ron Hubbard said, I'm fucking clear. Of course, it comes back 10 times worse. And it's like, but wait, there's all these beings that also have reactive minds all over you. And you need to audit out each of these beings, get them to go the fuck away via telepathy and this e-meter that you do by yourself, locked in a room. I'm going to do a whole separate video on this because it's so hilarious the way they make you go down and get the material secretly. You have to hook it up to on you at all times. So when I was, going to do my job, I was sitting dogs and shit at the time when I was doing OT3, and I had to carry this briefcase on me. And the previous pet sitter that I would be replacing would be like, why the fuck do you always have this briefcase, attached to you and shit, as if you're some CIA agent? So anyways, they make you do all sorts of weird shit. You go from just being audited by another person to get to clear. And then when you get to the OT levels, you're doing it at your house by yourself. And that's when you really start to lose your fucking mind. I couldn't sleep at night because I thought beings that have reactive minds, need to be gotten rid of. And so it goes from relative insanity, get rid of your subconscious mind, it's fucking stupid, to absolute insanity. There's beings you're possessed, you didn't know it, and now you have to spend literally about 10 to 15 years, because once you get to OT, it's all getting rid of these beings from OT3 and beyond. And by the time you get up to the second before the final level, OT7, you could spend 10 or 15 fucking years every day, 6 sessions a day, telepathically communicating to beings in your bedroom to get the fuck off of you. And imagine what that does to somebody. My dad is at OT8. So he, year after year after year after year, day after day, has been getting rid of imaginary beings on his body. It's even said that everything in the physical universe is made up of these beings too. So if enough people can audit up to OT7, the whole physical universe will vanish. And I don't even know what that means. Like, does everybody's problems go away? But you, me, the physical universe are actually made up of these beings too. So if enough people on OT7 audit off of these beings in their bedroom, the pure theta, and that means spirituality, will fucking permeate the whole world, and the whole world will just disappear, I guess, one day. That's actually what it's about, dude. That's the level of insanity that it is.
We just want the universe to blink out.
Yeah, I guess L. Ron Hubbard doesn't want to just clear the planet and do a eugenics project. He'd actually like to just literally delete the entire universe and multiverse itself. I guess he didn't really have a high affinity, which is another word in Scientology, for people, places, and things.
Except maybe himself and anybody with money.
Yeah. And obviously the whole thing was just a projection of his own insanity. Like any psychopath, you're so insecure, you want to just delete literally the world around you if you can't, or control it. So he just wanted to take over the world, and his own psychosis, he literally wanted to blink out the whole fucking universe or take it over, some twisted ass shit. I mean, he said that he wanted to burn his name in fire to make Hitler look like a schoolboy. He wrote that in one of his letters to one of his wives that he used to beat the shit out of. And he kind of achieved his goal. I mean, we talked about this last time, Dave. A guy from beyond the grave has managed to enslave and affect the lives of hundreds of thousands and millions of people, even to this day. And that's a lot more accomplishment than a lot of people in this world. So maybe he did achieve his goal. Maybe he actually, in some weird, twisted, psychotic way, knew what he was doing, because he did manifest it in a certain way. He fucked my life up and I never met him.
Yeah, that's fucking, that's one of the reasons why I will never stop fucking with Scientology. That's fine. They come at me, bro. I'll fuck with you forever. Just like Amanda, I'll fuck with you forever.
Thank you both for doing that, seriously.
Well, it's also fun.
Yeah.
It is.
And we find things like that.
It's a little less fun for me because I live the fucking shit, but I'd be right with you in terms of that 100% if I didn't actually experience. The only reason it's not 100% fun, because my fucking family, dude, and my friend, I can't speak to my family. Like something so ludicrous, right? And ridiculous. Like what we just talked about is actually preventing, just completely remove my family from my existence. And that was really, really difficult to come to terms with.
And it's not just you. You're not the only one.
Oh, dude, there's so many. This science fiction scam has managed to, that's why I said I think L. Ron Hubbard achieved some of his goal, and he might have known what he was doing at the outset, how manipulatable people were, and he went for it. And yeah, I mean, dude, the guy was rich as fuck, right? They have a couple $1 billion. They have enslaved and made Manchurian candidates out of at least a few 100,000 people, but then it also affects all the family members, and they've infiltrated governments, and they have Narconon where they use endless front groups to suck people in. It's quite a creation for something that's so a lunatic, L. Ron Hubbard Jr. said, somebody posted this on a comment the other day, and it says that Scientology doesn't work the way that Scientologists think that it does. It works the way L. Ron Hubbard intended it to. And the way he intended it to was he wanted to enslave mankind.
I mean, that's what
so-
fucking narcissistic lunatic fucking does.
Yeah.
What's funny is that we were like, one time Dave and I were fucking high and watching the L. Ron does the very first time he talks about the bridge. And so he does that video, but we watched it on 1 1/4 speed, and it made him a little peppier and a little bit more charismatic. And we're like, fuck, we're fucking so lucky that he wasn't actually like this right here. Otherwise, we'd all be fucking worshiping Xenu right now. We'd be fucked.
Wow, that's interesting. So you felt the only reason you didn't capture it because he was a little bit low energy. He didn't have enough drugs in the system. Because by the way, when he was giving those lectures and all throughout his life, he was high as a motherfucker. That guy did so many drugs, and not like weed. You know, he did like drugs that made him go out of his goddamn mind.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, drugs for me, not for thee. L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do. So, because everything that he taught his members, by the way, he did the opposite of.
So, what are the Sea Org, Flag, and Gold Base? And did you ever consider joining the Sea Org, and were you ever at Flag or Gold Base, like during your time in the cult?
No, I wasn't at Gold Base. I almost went there, but I didn't pass their little security check. They do movies. Okay, let me explain what Gold Base is first. We'll take them one at a time. So Gold Base is where the main Sea Org members, the most hardcore members, that's where they're at. And they're basically imprisoned there under mind control as well as inwards facing spikes so that they can't get off of the property. And that's kind of part of David Miscavige's headquarters. It's where they do all the filming and stuff too. So as an actor, I had an opportunity to go out there. But any actor that's not a Scientologist, and even if you are a Scientologist, goes through this sec check. You know what that is, Ashley, right? The security check where they put you on the e-meter and they ask you questions to make sure you're clean enough to go out to Gold to do their films. I didn't pass the fucking sec check, so I never made it out to Gold. Second thing is, what's the Sea Org? I know you know about that, Dave. I know Ashley, and you know you guys know about it, but you had a personal experience. That's basically where you sign over your life, not just this lifetime, but I mean, you sign a 1 billion-year contract. So how many lifetimes would that be to reincarnate and serve this fucking psychopath? Maybe like several 100,000. Yeah. So you're
Did you get a 23-year break in between?
I don't think so, man. I mean, when
does it sound like them?
It's a good point that you bring up, though, right? Because as soon as somebody hears, wait a minute, did you just say that they sign a 1 billion-year contract and actual human beings with brains do this? It goes back to that KSW thing we were talking about. It's so bold and bald-faced of a claim, and it's so serious that you know he's speaking metaphorically, but you get the fact that this is a serious commitment. So if you buy into even a little bit of it, or they find your vulnerability and you start to go, oh yeah, I guess I should take this course, it's not too far of a leap because the Sea Org members are bombarding public all the time too. They're constantly trapping them, putting them in rooms, telling them how serious this mission is and making them feel guilty about their day job. So they'll quit that, sign this metaphoric contract. But that just shows the dedication that it takes. It's not too dissimilar to the military. You make a commitment, you're there to fucking serve the group, and you do what you're fucking told because you believe that you're defending the country. It's exactly that same phenomenon. It's not like people believe they're signing a 1 billion-year contract. But anyway, so that's what they do. The Sea Org members, and they also get little kids, by the way, to sign this at 8 or 9, and then they can throw them in around 12. This is human trafficking. This is human trafficking. Somebody under the guise of a religion.
You know, somebody in one of the Scientology groups posted a picture of a kid with their 1 billion-year contract, and I discreetly hit them up with a picture of it with the kid's face blurred out. I'm like, come on, like blur the kid's face.
I put a picture of these 2 8 or 9-year-olds with the face blurred out doing auditing, like I was. This is what makes it so crazy about why it's still here, because they're literally, obviously, human trafficking children. They're stealing their entire life by getting them to sign this contract where they're going to be under the indentured servitude of a psychopath named David Miscavige, and nobody has a problem with that. Like I understand, forget the justice system. They're fucking, I don't think the justice system is going to step in. I think humanity is going to have to just, I don't know, man, care enough because, you know, it's some shady, Scientology has a lot of people in their pockets. Let me put it that way. Right. And so if you're looking to go to the very people that are working with them or benefited from to try to take this thing down, I mean, maybe I'm not saying everybody's like in on some conspiracy, but there's a reason why Scientology still exists and the government doesn't do anything about it, because it's obvious to everybody else they're human trafficking people. They're brainwashing people, and they're fucking causing them to go psychotic and sometimes murder and suicide themselves. It's very obvious what's happening. So it's not a big head scratcher once you realize how Scientology operates, which I'm going to go into more on these videos about just how connected and deep they are in with what they call safe pointing. Here's another word we can throw out. They have a term called safe pointing, where they get judges and police officers and everything in their pocket. Are we getting too crazy here, or can we talk about this stuff?
No, do
okay?
We make fun of conspiracy theorists, and one of the things we sometimes say is one of the things we sometimes say is like, why aren't the conspiracy theorists pointing their fucking ire at a group like Scientology? You want a conspiracy, you got one.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, the other ones might be up in the air, but here we have one that's been documented and proven. You don't have to reach for facts. You don't have to go to fucking, another dimension to try to figure this shit out. It's fucking obvious. It's documented. It has been forever. And it's not just Scientology. Like, I know there's literally thousands of cults. I just did a video that featured Scientology Light, which is Landmark and Est and some other ones. Even Manson learned his tricks from Dianetics and Scientology. All of this is documented. And it's like, I just get frustrated sometimes at watching we were talking earlier about maybe the celebrity clique or whatever. Like, it's all about drama, not about, like, what I wanted to do on this fucking small ass channel is just expose the trick and also the connections and what's going on, so that maybe there could be enough public awareness where people will take action and not maybe wait for the quote unquote government. Because, dude, Scientology has, I don't want to say they work together, but let's just say that they're very good at safe pointing, which is getting people to be on the side of Scientology by slipping them a little money, by giving them privileges. People can be manipulated really easy if you give them what they want. So you just find weak people. They're good at that. And then there's a lot of, almost anybody can be manipulated unless you're a really strong person. And they're just experts at that. So they don't just manipulate the cult members. They get the drone cult members to then literally go into government offices and start fucking with shit. I mean, that was proven in Operation Snow White, which the CIA themselves said they have a CIA unit that operates more efficiently and effectively than our own fucking unit. So I'm just telling you what we're, I don't know why I got off on a tangent, but it just frustrates me sometimes just listening to this drama, or Tom Cruise did this and that. And it's like, when the fuck are we going to like actually get rid of this goddamn thing?
Right. We need to find the Mike Renders before they become Mike Renders.
Yeah.
Those fucking high level people that are like, that took their place.
Right. And also, with Render, like, what do you say about somebody like that? Like, he did some of the most brutal actions to people that are still suffering to this day. And he's out there being a celebrity. And I used to be really pissed at that. And then there's also a part of me that goes, well, he's also exposing Scientology, trying to make things right. And him and Leah helped my ass out, as did all the exes. They may be culty or whatever in a certain way, not all of them, but there are cliques when you come out. Their information and everything, because they spoke out, helped the shit out of me to speak out. So I have a mixed feeling about people like Rinder and stuff, where they were when you're in, I guess, like we talked the last time with Dave, you're both an abuser and you're abused in Scientology. You learn to give it and take it. So you have to have, like, it's a major thing to wrestle with, and you can't really just judge people right out of the gate, because Mike Rinder was born into that goddamn thing, if I understand correctly. And to grow up as a Sea Org member and do what he did, and then try to decompress and make right all the damage that he did while in there, I can't claim to know what that's like. I had it fucking easy, I was a public member, and I even wanted to suicide myself for years on end. It took me to hell and back, and I wasn't in nearly as deep as him and people like that. So I don't want to judge, but at the same time, it does drive me a little bit bonkers that there's a bit of a celebrity clique, and it's more about drama rather than getting down to the facts and the information, so that we can actually dismantle this fucking thing,
Okay.
Anyways, not to get off on a tangent.
No, that's okay. Let's see. We were talking, you got the Sea Org. What is Flag?
Flag, I just compared Flag in one of the videos recently to the Overlook Hotel in The Shining, because I mean, it's a metaphor, right? But I wasn't doing that as a joke. It's like that. Lisa McPherson, as you know, was literally murdered there and kept in, like that scene in The Shining that I flashed in there. She was kept in, she was fucking murdered, dude. And that brings us back to Rinder, who was also around during that time, right? And these other people that are speaking out that know about this stuff. Oh, God, man. Anyway, so FLAG is where a lot of programming goes on. It's the highest level of programming in Scientology outside of the free winds, which is the only place you can do the highest level of Scientology, called OT8. So when you get up to the level OT7, where, like I said, for 10 years or so, you're auditing off these beings, you can only do that at FLAG. And you have to go there every 6 months to get checked up to make sure your ethics are in. That means, is your moral code intact? And are you doing the level right? For example, my dad would go to FLAG every 6 months. This is a huge building out in Florida, by the way. They have incredible amounts of money. They're super concerned about how their properties look, not how their members are. So they have this lavish building out in Florida that looks amazing, top-notch everything. And yet, so what looks pretty on the outside, this is where people literally lose their fucking minds the most. Like I said, you do OT7 there. You have to go there every 6 months to check in. And you can also go there to do the other things. All of the orgs kind of compete with each other. So FLAG's trying to rope people in from overseas to come do basic courses that they could just do at their local area, but they want to, they're the top technology. They deliver the standard. They have the best auditors. They deliver the most standard tech. There's another word. Standard tech is what FLAG claims to deliver the most. So anyways, long story short, that's where you go if you want the top brainwashing on the planet.
So that's a pretty powerful claim that the best brainwashing on the planet is happening in Florida. But it's also not a surprising claim that the best brainwashing on the planet is happening in Florida. What's an engram, and how is that different than a thetan?
An engram is a moment of pain and unconsciousness that you suffer. This is the whole theory, which is stupid, again, like trying to erase your unconscious mind. But dude, if you don't know any basic psychology like I didn't, bro, you're just going to kind of believe whatever psychology's throwing around. So the psychology in my house was, you got these engrams, you got to react to mind. And it fucking made sense to me, dude. I didn't think about this shit when I was like 10 or 12. It's just like, that's the way it is. So the theory is that what's fucking you up is all the times you got knocked out or you were unconscious. Maybe you were drunk. Maybe you hit your head and you fell down and you were knocked out. I mean, that happens, 10 times in your life or something? So these moments, apparently, as well as being born in the womb, and if your mother, was all traumatized, she'll fuck you up too. So those are the basic moments of pain and unconsciousness, which when you're knocked out or whatever, you're unconscious, your reactive mind, your subconscious is recording that content. And anything said to you while you're in that state of mind is literal. So if there was people around you saying, don't do that, you look ugly, he hit his head, he's injured. Because you were unconscious, you're not going to remember that when you wake up. And so for the rest of your life, these moments are actually making you feel not bad about yourself, because of that content went in from other people and voices that is completely ruling your life. So when you get rid of that through auditing, you'll be able to re-experience, i.e. re-traumatize yourself through moments of pain and unconsciousness. It doesn't just take you through that. That's the hook to get you to go off into past lives and all sorts of other shit. But the theory is, when you get up to what's called NED, it's kind of complex, my man, but you do all these grades to relieve enough charge so that you can finally confront these moments of pain and unconsciousness. And that level is called NED, which stands for New Era Dianetics. That's when you're going to actually relieve these moments of pain and unconsciousness, get rid of that mind chatter like I was telling you about. And finally, you'll be able to think good about yourself. You won't have these subconscious commands that you didn't know about from other people, and you'll be free. He got all that, by the way, from his training in hypnosis, because what he was actually doing, like everything he did, was the opposite. So he was actually he was putting you in a trance, and then he was implanting moments of pain and unconsciousness in your mind in these auditing sessions.
So that thing you describe is like a big theme on the Scientology channel, the 24-hour stream. That's like something they kind of hammer away at. I remember this one about, I don't know, somebody like was picked up by an ambulance or whatever, and then everything that he was said to him during that, he would end up yelling at other people like later in like conflicts or whatever. the things that were being said in the background, I think by like medical staff or emergency staff or whatever. There was this, and it was an episode of some show on Scientology TV, which
It was the reactive mind.
I know what you're talking about. This is why
Yeah.
Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes had to have a silent birth too, by the way, because the indoctrination is if you're giving birth, you need to shut the fuck up. Nobody needs to talk because all those are going to be downloaded into the baby's mind when you at conception and when it comes out, and it's going to fuck them up for the rest of their life.
Right.
That's why they
So-
do silent births.
We watched that reactive mind thing, what Dave's talking about, where the guy gets into like an accident and he's in the ambulance and the EMTs are talking and they're like and then all that shit ends up affecting him. And so he's in auditing and he's talking about it, which is like, if you go back to the Reckless Ben little documentary that they did, that episode where he's being audited and the lady keeps saying, tell me about it again. Tell me about it again. Tell me about it again. And he keeps going through it. And he was in there for 10, 14 hours. I think he said he was in there for a long fucking time. And his glasses or whatever only will do like 30 minutes. So there was very little video footage. But he had his phone in his pocket and he recorded it. And all of those things lined up, and it's like it just all like just fell into place. I'm like, I get it. I get all that shit. It took a lot of watching a bunch of crazy shit.
What do you mean you get it, Ashley? Do you mean
willingly?
Do you mean that it finally made sense, like how somebody could fall for this, or what do you mean?
No, I mean that's exactly what I mean.
no. I love when we do that. No,
that's
no.
California thing. No, hella. No, it's like the most Bay Area, California thing I could do right now. Yeah, how the programming begins from the very, very beginning and how they make it seem like it is something that will turn a negative into a positive. So whenever you have those negative things, you just automatically brush it off and are just like, oh, it was just a good experience. And
right. And they also tell you that this is the setup too for when they traumatize you to keep going. They say that it's all from your reactive mind, this subconscious mind that you're unaware of. So you're not aware of it. That's why you're acting the way that you need to do, that you are. So you need to get up the bridge, and when you get up the bridge, you'll stop having these unconscious reactions. And that's if you buy into that, which you don't know if it's really true or not, maybe when you're younger in your life, the rest follows, right? And then before you know it, you're like Ben sitting in there, repetition over and over. The repetition is just to break you down, because your mind finally literally can't take it and you just give in. That's how they got me. It took years for them to actually break my mind down, which I give myself a pat on the back for, because I thought I was an idiot for a little while, but then I was like, you know what? They actually took a long time and a lot of repetition and a lot of brainwashing before they finally actually got me. Because like I said, I knew for years it was complete, utter horseshit.
Right. I had a thing and I lost it.
That's okay. That's okay. I'd like to continue quizzing you. What's the tone scale, and why are gay people a 1-1?
Interesting. The tone scale is something that you might do on the PTSSP course. I'll define that real quick. That stands for potential trouble source / suppressive person. And I know you guys know about this, but I won't go off on a tangent, but real briefly, I mention this because the tone scale is introduced to you on that course and maybe some other courses. I think the Hubbard Qualified Scientologist course. It's not right out of the gate. It's not on the communication course. But anyway, so somewhere along the line, you're going to meet this tone scale. And it's actually a really clever tool to control your emotions, like I said in one of the videos, and to keep you in line, because you're learning to look at other humans on this scale. And by being able to plot people on this scale, you're going to be able to then make a judgment and learn how to treat them. It's a manipulative tool that goes like this. So at the very bottom, there's body death. That's the lowest you can be on this tone scale. This is charting where human beings are at. So he even has ones, I think, below body. Like it goes past life, even on the tone scale, because you're already taking in spiritual concepts on the lower end of the tone scale. Out of valence, out of body. I don't even remember, but there's ones that are going to the spiritual realm as to how fucking low you can actually be. all the way up to the top of the tone scale, which is serenity of beingness, which sounds like something out of what, the Buddha would be going for or some shit. So it's basically, you're not even, yeah, exactly, that charlatan. And there's a million other ones, that preach the new agey shit. Anyways, so yeah, the tone scale is an innocent seeming tool where you're like, when I was learning, I was like, fuck, dude, I can finally plot people and get a fix on people. And you're also taught, once you learn how to figure out where people are at, as you mentioned, the gaze at 1-1. That's the most evil level that you can be at. It's the worst one you can be at.
I am so glad. I'm so glad that they put me there. Fuck them. We badgered Andy Nolte about this shit for a while too. We badgered Andy Nolte about this shit for a while too. One of the times we talked to him.
What specifically? Because he would be a 1-1 according to Scientology. Because he's not following the church policy. He's doing his own thing.
Oh no, we just asked him, and he just outright admitted to not liking gay people. All right, we're gonna move on. We'll do a fun one. What is a squirrel?
A squirrel is what you become when you take the technology of L. Ron Hubbard and you decide, like Keith Raniere of the NXIVM cult, or Manson, or the fucking dude from Est, Werner Erhard. You take the technology of L. Ron Hubbard and you dare to go off and start a group of your own. L. Ron Hubbard had a copyright on everything. He wanted all the money to flow to his ass. And people were stealing his shit and becoming squirrels and squirreling up the technology. The only place you can get true Scientology is at the actual church where you pay the fucking money. You can't go online. You can't join Est. You can't fucking do any of these other Scientology offshoots. There was the Process Church as well. There's a whole bunch of cults, my man. There's a lot of them that I don't even know if people know about that are actually just completely like L. Ron Hubbard. What's interesting about Scientology in particular as a cult is that it really does have a comprehensive package of all the different techniques to manipulate somebody like in one area that I don't know if it exists in a whole lot of other areas. So it's a good model for another psychopath to rip off and just to use. I mean, Keith Raniere didn't even bother to change the words and shit. He uses words like postulate and ethics and shit. It's a trip watching that show, by the way, to see another group of people and actors and Hollywood people get trapped by a shoddy version of L. Ron Hubbard. This guy's very unimpressive. He's ugly, and yet he had these snake eyes that could hypnotize people. And there you go. They're all off
the B team,
doing the same thing.
It's like Scientology's B team.
Yeah, but I mean, it's literally just an exact thing of that. So a squirrel is someone who figures out, another sociopath who figures out, hey, this is a really good roadmap on how to manipulate the crap out of people, make a shitload of money, and get away with it probably for a lifetime. So because L. Ron Hubbard did, so I'm going to go with this. And so a squirrel would be somebody like that. Also, Marty Rathbun was considered the squirrel because he left and he took the technology and was doing it his own way. So that's why he had the squirrel busters, those ridiculous fools with those cameras mounted on their head. I mean, they couldn't have looked anything more like they were out of some fucking skit. And they show up at his doors like zombies and shit. And I'm sure you guys have seen that, obviously. So yeah, anyone from Marty to Charles Manson would be a squirrel, according to Scientology.
I thought the squirrel busters might have been a bit that some of the exes were using. But I don't know. I just thought, I'm just so cynical. I'm so fucking cynical.
Savage of the cult, bro. That was full on directed by the midget himself.
I'm just so fucking cynical now. I don't believe that anything's real.
I feel you, man. I feel you. Because there's always another story, right? When you think, oh, that, and then it changed. Yeah, me too, dude. I mean, Talk about cynical. I had my whole trust in everything shatter. So I feel you on that, bro.
Oh yeah, we're kindred spirits.
He made me cynical, and now I make him question stuff.
That's an interesting dynamic. So you keep his critical thinking in line so he doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But I lean more towards Dave because, one of the things I said is if it's possible to be burned on this big of a level with this big of a conspiracy that was right in front of my eyes that I couldn't see, then what the fuck else in this world is not true? And I got to tell you, man, I wouldn't consider myself a conspiracy theorist because I don't believe in the QAnon shit. I don't fucking belong to any group or any cult. But I did learn one thing, and I'm not trying to push this on anybody else. I'm just saying this is the process I naturally went through. If I could be lied to on this scale, I need to know what the fuck is true in this world. So I question goddamn everything. And at the end of it, I found, my God, dude, the lies that we are bombarded with as a human race are so outlandish and so enormous that I could barely wrap my goddamn mind around it. Hitler one time said, make the lie big, make it simple, keep repeating it, and eventually the people will believe it. And the kind of whoppers that L. Ron Hubbard told were so out of my framework that anybody would ever do that, that it kind of keeps you from questioning anything, because no one would lie on that scale. Why all the books? Why all the mess, as they would say? Why all the fancy shit? Surely there's something there. There has to be something there. He wrote all these books. If it's just a big con and it's a lie on the scale that it really is, it wouldn't make sense that there would be such an organization. So what I'm saying is to find out that something that so obviously seems like there's something there, that there's literally nothing there, it's totally empty. That made me look at the world at large and realize L. Ron Hubbard was not the only fucking person telling big whoppers, you know? So I'm like him, more a cynic, but I also try to keep my mind open too, so I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and become like, you know, I don't want to fucking start not trusting anybody or whatever, but people definitely have to earn my trust nowadays. And I'm just like naively just believe in everything I'm told anymore, like I so innocently used to. I used to trust authority. I used to trust my parents. My parents aren't evil people, but they con me in a way that they'll never know about before they hit the grave. And yet it affected me because they were lying to me my whole life. Again, not on purpose. I don't blame them. I get it. I understand it. But it doesn't get them off the hook, because they'll face the consequences, because like I had to. And it's like when your own parents and your own religious leader who you think is saving the planet can fuck you on such a deep level with no awareness that they're doing so. It just made me look at the world a completely different way. I'm thankful for the experience because it opened up my fucking eyes. It made me almost charlatan, being able to be hornswoggled or bamboozled proof. And it made me kind of see things more clearly, so I don't get, you know, taken in by all these other groups and people that I see a lot of my friends get taken in. I would never be taken in by QAnon. Me and Dave had a talk on that earlier. You know, I fucking lost a friend over that shit, trying to explain to him, you're in a cult. You know, you're being hit with some truth and a lot of bullshit, and you're being, you know, it's like, it's so obvious. There's little breadcrumbs. It's all kind of secret. You don't even know who Q is. It's all you figured out, trust Trumpet. Well, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Again, like I said, I definitely know there's lies and conspiracies and stuff. So I recognize that there's some, just like there was some truth in Scientology, there is human trafficking going on. The fucking Epstein thing, you know, which just went out of consciousness all of a sudden since this pandemic hit. I mean, we know about human trafficking. We know that Scientology human traffics people. So obviously there's shit going on. But to take it to the level and to form a cult like QAnon, where you think that some authority figure like Trump is going to save the day and you don't have to do anything. It's a fucking cult, dude. And it's like, I lost, you know, a really good friend over him not shutting the fuck up about the latest Q drop every goddamn day. You know, we would agree on certain things, but he was into this Dungeons and Dragons fantasy, Trump's the savior fucking thing, when that's not how reality works, man. You know?
Nobody's the savior.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to save ourselves.
Yeah, we might be able to improve the conditions of the average human being by working together, but ain't nobody just going to come in and fucking fix it. And
I totally agree with that.
But like, also, like, are we ever going to be able to work together? It seems like the internet, that ship's done sailed, man. I'm just glad like nobody's trying to dox us, or like when I opened my front door, nobody's there with a shotgun to blow my head off for what I said on the show last night. Like, the working together thing, it's like, that's like a 5 years down the road project. It's going to require a lot of work.
50 or 100 years down the road, because that would be nice if we came together and started working as, I mean, like I said, I got burned so bad. I don't have any belief system anymore. I just, look, we live a short life. We get 80 trips around the sun. We should be working together. Stop fighting each other over these stupid divide and rule labels. And let's just fucking get along. And this world could be amazing. But you know, right now it feels like everybody's at everybody's throat. But dude, I hold out hope that maybe one day we actually will like somewhat get along and retain our individuality. And these cults and these religions, these control systems, these ways of getting kids to fucking just, you know, download into their brains the most ludicrous shit before they even get to experience anything. Maybe that'll change one fucking day, man. I hope so. I doubt it, but I hope so.
Oh, Ninetails in our chat just dropped the link to your channel. We'll make sure to put that in the video notes.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, Ninetails.
And Ninetails
Cool.
Cosmic Fox is a real one. So what is
I
the
love
word
that.
interbulate? What does the word interbulate mean?
Dude, let me ask you what you would think it would mean just by the way it sounds. Take a guess.
Well, I shouldn't because I know what it means. It means like exactly what you
Okay.
think it means based on the way the word sounds.
Right, like a jet engine, right? And turbulation, like that one's probably one of the closest to English that the motherfucker got because he changed English words. So interbulate means to just upset you. Dave, by you talking about Scientology right now, you're really fucking interbulating me. I'm going to write a KR on you. You're an SP. You need to do the conditions. And I hope you're okay with that. My ARC and KRC is being shattered. I'm going into a sad effect, and you really need to handle that.
You know, it would be really funny.
Would be a way that Scientologists would talk to another Scientologist.
So that thing that you just did, you should do that, but you should put other acronyms like FDA and like PCP.
I gotta go down and get an A and W and then stop at the A and P.
Dude, I'm making a joke, but seriously, I'll, like a conversation among my family would be like, look, you're out 2D. You need to get your ethics in. You need to at least get up to the condition of normal. And, you know, we'll set up a meeting for you to get your auditing to, you know, handle that part in your bank, or maybe you just need to do the TRs and get your focus in better or whatever. There's a whole load of tools, and the programming works by when you just dare to do a communication course, you're learning these terms like in KSW, right? What the fuck does reading KSW have to do except introduce you to terms like pre-clear and clear? It introduces you to this whole language, and then you don't just, they tell you need to look up your words, right? So you're learning to look up in a dictionary. You just signed up to do a communication course. That's what they sold you. But suddenly you're learning new terms now. And within a week, you're going to start talking like I just did. And so you don't even know that everything's being reframed, like you said. So a normal English word for turbulate would be, you're stop fucking pissing me off or upsetting me, and you would talk normal. But once you start learning these thought terminating cliches, because that's what they are, they're these terms that take a huge range of human experience and put them down to one word. Like, you're not maybe half a bad person and you have shades of gray. You are a suppressive dude. You talk shit about Scientology, black and white, you're evil. End of story. Thought terminating cliche. Sums up all of human experience in one little phrase. So before you know it, you go from, dude, stop pissing me off, to get your TRs in and stop interpolating me. My ARC is out, my KRC is out, and I really don't like the fact that I'm going into a sad effect. It reduces your vocabulary to gobbledygook. So you start speaking like L. Ron Hubbard is programming you like a computer to speak. I fucking talk like that all the time. And by the way, Dave, you get addicted to only being around other Scientologists that can talk like that.
So
I bet that helps whenever that, like, also helps whenever people are trying to disconnection, because you're like your friends that aren't Scientologists, like, they're going to want to know what those terms are, and if they're already like if they're making fun of it already, or if they're already like considered an SP, then making it like special and exclusive and like you're in a group and all that's, you know, just another part of it.
So real quick, it occurs to me that when you go to the communication course, they're telling you that you're going to eventually be able to communicate with the outside world better, right? But then once you've taken a few of those classes and shit, the only people you know how to communicate with are other fucking lunatics who took the same classes you did.
Exactly. I just said that in the last video. While you're sitting there doing a communication course, you're hearing all the Scientology babble going on around you. You're going through sensory deprivation by having to shut your eyes, stare at another person for hours on end, and you're learning the goddamn nomenclature while you're in the suggestible state. So you're not doing a communication course. You're taking in the words at the same time. You're being put into a trance so that will go in. And you don't, actually, the thing that's such a trip about this, looking back at how this process is done, one, I didn't know anything about how my mind or manipulation worked. Most people don't unless you run into it. And second of all, how would you know any better? Like, once you get caught and trapped, how would you know that that's happening to you? So the whole process of how I went to actually speak that way in a few weeks, to the levels that it took me into just insanity, and then trying to get out. It's like taking acid. It's like a psychedelic experience because it's so hard to explain to someone what a process that's sneaking up on you that you have no fucking idea is happening. But after 5 years, you're a totally different person. And then the reverse process of that, it felt like I was on an acid trip for 12 years. I can't turn it off. I have to get through this or kill myself, but there's no way out until I untangle this thing. And it's very psychedelic having your own personality, the essence of who you actually are as a person, completely changed, and then trying to get it back. It's such a, anybody that's been through this experience will know exactly what I'm talking about. Unexplainable to somebody, because I wasn't stupid necessarily. I just didn't see it fucking happening, you know?
Yeah.
It was impossible.
And all of these communication courses while doing the purification rundown, which leaves you also a version of high and tired and exhausted and suggestible and hungry. Yes. And yeah, so that's like it's a formula for fucking destruction.
Oh, did they ever subject you to the purification?
Yeah, I did that thing 3 times. One when I was around like 9 or 10 years old.
Wait, what? Can you tell everybody what the purification rundown is right now so they know what happened to a young child?
The purification rundown's kind of a couple different things depending on where it's introduced to you at. They have a front group, as you know about, because I think you lost a friend to it, Dave, called Narconon. And that's where they use L. Ron Hubbard's technology as a drug rehabilitation program. So it's presented to you at Narconon as this is a drug rehabilitation program. It's not. It's using L. Ron's hypnosis tools to get you into Scientology. So you can be introduced to it that way. If you go down to the church, they'll either introduce it to you as a drug program, or if you say, hey, man, I never took any drugs. This is one of the very first steps you take on the auditing side. There's training where you learn the courses, auditing where you hold the soup cans and get hypnotized. You have to do the purif before you can get onto those fucking cans. So if you haven't done any drugs, they'll say, hey, well, sunburns that you have, the toxic and chemicals from the air, the chemtrails that Mad Sandy or whatever the fuck her name is are spraying down on you. Those things.
That's fine. That's what I'm calling her from now on. Mad Sandy.
Dude, that's probably the only people that are listening to me are the shills that are like, yes!
I love how you can just rapid fire those clips in there. Do you have another one for us, Ashley?
Oh, I do have another. This you'll like this one.
Gay Dave is a fucking freak. He's a Kaku whore, and I despise him.
I think you played that one in the last episode. That must be one of your favorites. Is that the Mad Molly chick?
Yeah,
Madison Starmoon. Here, I got this.
Guys, you guys, I freaking knew this guy was a phony.
She put out a fucking album. That's fucking awesome, man.
Our buddy Chip has he's a DJ and he scratches and he mixes and does stuff, and he's thrown sound clips of her and when he's been doing sets, and it's the most fucking hilarious thing.
Funny,
it's
man.
too good.
Oh, so back to the purif. What is the purif?
Yeah. So, like I said, if you're at the church, if you haven't taken any drugs, you still have to do it. You need to get rid of sunburns, the toxic chemicals, all that stuff. It's a couple grand. It takes a couple months to do. And you go in from anywhere from 2 to 5 hours a day after you take a lot of vitamins and run around the track for about 30 minutes. There's what it says. Everything in Scientology is what it says it is, and then what it actually is. What it says it's doing, and then what it's actually doing. You already described what it's doing. It's breaking you down. What you think it's doing is I'm taking a lot of vitamins. That's healthy. I'm running. That's healthy. And I'm sweating this shit out in the sauna for 5 hours. It's healthy. Because it's fucking you up so badly, because of the overdose of vitamins, because you're not meant to stay in a sauna for 5 hours straight. You do take breaks or whatever, but it fucks you the fuck up. So because that happens, you could actually die on this fucking thing. Many people have died, especially at Narconon Arrowhead. There was 3 deaths just a few years ago, high profile deaths because it went out on the news. And again, it just carries on like there's no problem here. I don't understand the world that I'm living in. It's like, hello, this fucking kills people. But anyway, so you basically, shit starts to what they say turn on. Again, like Ashley said, something bad that's happening to you is reframed. So when I was in this, I fucking got red and shit. And they say, hey, that's your sunburns from fucking 10 years ago on the beach that are running out. And I was like, oh my God, what a revelation. And then sometimes shit will come out of people's skin, like blue shit, like, you know, Ben was like fucking joking on and shit. Sometimes shit will actually come out of people's skin and they say, that was your fucking LSD flashback. That was the fucking, because they tell you that LSD and other drugs stay in your fatty tissues in your body. And because you're going to be running shit out, if your body starts to fall apart, shit comes out of your skin or you get really red, that's your sunburns, your LSD trip or whatever. Everything's reframed so you think you're getting gain. Oh my God, I'm running out. This is such powerful technology. I'm actually getting rid of past sunburns. I'm not going to trip on LSD anymore and have flashbacks. And this is this isn't me making it up. This is what they fucking tell you. So you can see why somebody would do 3 of them like I did. I mean, the first one I did when I was a kid to get out of the auditing side. The second one, I smoked fucking weed and I was stoned the whole time. So I had to redo that one after they busted my ass. And then the third one, I had become a Scientologist. I'm like, I'm going to do this right. And then there was a certain point in my early 20s when I became a Scientologist instantaneously. And I was a fucking dedicated, totally believing member for about 15 years after that. And it all starts with that Purif, which, like I said, drug rehabilitation program or this is the first step you need to take on your auditing to get rid of all the toxins and shit you've been building up for your life.
So was the Purif different because you were 9 years old, or was it the exact same regimen?
Exact same thing. They don't give a fuck, dude. They'll human traffic people and steal their lives. Why the fuck do they give a shit if they fuck a kid up? I don't give a fuck about that. They also don't know that they're doing that, by the way. Only Miscavige and Hubbard and shit and kind of are aware, and even they're kind of believers. Nobody feels like they're harming people, dude. It is a conspiracy in the fact that one asshole knew what the whole game was, L. Ron Hubbard, and everybody else is just following what they believe to be true. If my parents thought they were injuring me, and if they really knew what they were doing by signing me up for Scientology, let alone the Pura, they wouldn't fucking do it. So they had their reality reframed. So they think they're fucking helping out their kid who had anger issues. They were doing it because they gave a shit about me.
So in the chat, somebody's wondering if that LSD coming back out is just like from L. Ron's boat parties back in the day.
A possibility. It hasn't been confirmed, but I've heard that before. Yeah, that's another funny thing. I mean, while you're supposed to be getting rid of LSD in the Pure, if he's fucking, doing LSD every other day, he wasn't doing LSD. He was doing, even more intense shit. But it's just funny how like a psychopath tells you not to do all the things that they're actually doing. And then when one day you discover, wait a minute, they're not only not living by these principles, they're a massive drug addict. They fucking fucked my sister. You learn like everything in one day where they're the opposite of what they it's just like an abusive relationship, right? Have you guys ever been in a relationship with a sociopath?
No, but John Atack talks about how an abusive relationship and a cult are similar in that they're like it's just a control group of two in an abusive relationship. Like nobody watched him, but my interviews with fucking John Atack, the last one we ended up talking about how on the internet this was like 2017 or 18, the last time I talked to him. We were talking about how on the internet we were starting to see what appeared to be like decentralized cults, where instead of one leader, there are many smaller leaders of these cults, like because they're like conspiracy movements or whatever. And I think I talked to him about that before fucking QAnon happened, or before it hit the scene. And it was like, I don't think we predicted it or whatever, because it was like so obvious that it was happening. We were like observing something. But yeah, that guy, I was just way more comfortable as an interviewer because like he was like the third interview I ever did of anybody other than like my friend or some idiot who called my show to yell at me, right? It was
Karen was your first, right?
Yeah, Karen De La Carriere was my first interview.
Don't get me started on that. We don't have to get into that, but I'm not going to say anything about that.
Well, I'll just be straight up. Karen is the reason I got to interview John Atack. Like,
oh no, I feel you. Like connections and all that, great, but
yeah, no, I know.
Saving her for another time.
Well, no, I mean, like it's fine. Like, I actually have a lot of respect for her because when we talked about an incident that happened, we were critical of her too, and she still shared our video and was like, so like whatever. Like
I said, dude, I won't get into it because I share quite a different viewpoint. But I understand what you're talking about. Let me just put it to you this way, dude. We won't go any further. I don't like people that come out of a cult and are still manipulating people. That pisses me off. And that's all I'm going to say on that for now.
But that is also the area where we were critical.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Good.
Well, yeah. We're
That needs
not
to be
we're
called
not we're
out.
not married to anybody around here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying nobody needs to come out of Scientology and then still be subjected to Scientology. They need to get out of Scientology by someone that's not themselves let's just say, not fully deprogrammed Scientologist and put themselves into their hands. It's better to. And I understand the problem too, dude, because it takes us a long time, if ever, to actually get L. Ron Hubbard's voice out of our head. And it takes a lot of work, and you have to really want to make that a priority. Some people don't, and that's okay. So they don't even know that they still think in the same terms. They haven't redefined everything into a different way of seeing completely. So they might still hold on to their awards and the levels that they got to, or think the TRs are good. And like I said, I understand that, but I wanted all that shit out of my head, because to me, that's the problem. And if people only go halfway or 3/4 of the way, again, I'm not judging, but if those people are going to help out people that are coming out of the cult, they're going to fucking subject them back into the fucking cult.
No, and I 100% agree with you. 100% agree. Yeah. People don't, I mean, even if people are like think that there's some kind of armchair psychologist and have nothing to do with it, even outside of Scientology, and your friend comes to you with some fucking heavy shit, you shouldn't be giving them like psychological fucking advice. You're not a psychologist. It's the same. Yeah.
You're so right, Ashley. In fact, I'm not against psychologists at all. Psychology is how the whole trap worked. Just how to mind fuck somebody. Like, I would go to a psychologist and I was sitting there teaching. I went to a couple after I got over the phobia, because there's a massive phobia. Psychology and psychiatry are bad. So once I got over that, I was like, no, this is actually got manipulated with a master of psychology. That's all it was. So I would go to psychologists and I was sitting there teaching about the bite model, teaching about mind control, teaching about hypnosis. They didn't even think that shit was real, dude. Like, I mean, not all of them necessarily, but I wasn't getting anywhere with the ones that I went to see. And then if you go see a cult specialist, some of these motherfuckers are shady. So I finally just figured out.
You didn't need it. Maybe like maybe you were.
I call it auto psychotherapy. I basically was my own psychologist, my own counsel, my own. Dude, it was a brutal way to go. And I'm not saying I'm like totally have all the answers or I'm healed, but it was dude, just being responsible for like figuring it out myself. I learned a lot, and it's like I can make my own decisions. I didn't have to have anybody else. I tried to do, but like I said, I was making more progress by reading, studying, and deprogramming just by myself than I was trying to go to explain it to a psychologist. It was like a second step. I just after a while, I just figured out, I know what happened to me. I think I know how to undo it. So,
and it's not for everybody. I mean, like you were saying, like other people that got out maybe could do really well by going to see a mental health professional, right?
Fucking should. I think, like I said,
at least try it.
Dude, it was not like overnight I fucking healed myself. Right. Yeah, I would say that was even part of my process, like going to, I'm not advocating don't see a psychologist. It was just what we were talking about, though. How do you know that the psychologists themselves, even though they might have the best of intentions, they might be giving you shitty advice? When I found myself trying to explain mind control and cults to these couple psychologists that I went to, I realized I wasn't going to get very far because they literally didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. So they wanted to go back to childhood trauma and all that. And that's good. That still needed to be handled. But that was skipping, as they would say in Scientology, skipping a gradient. I needed to handle what was done with me first. And then we can handle the issues that I got into Scientology that they never handled. See, that's the thing getting out of a cult. Not only do you have to get that out of your head through 10 years, they fuck you up, you make you into a different person. You have to, all of a sudden, all the problems that have built up over your life, plus you just lost 20 years being in an alternate reality. So you haven't been in reality at all. So the way back is so extraordinarily long, bro. It's no wonder people don't give it up, or they hold on to the TRs or their class 12 status, because, dude, it's fucking hard, man. And that's why I'm saying I understand. I just made a decision right out of the gate. I don't give a shit if this kills me, if it takes 20 or whatever. I'm going to fucking get this completely out of my mind. I'm going to understand exactly what happened. I don't give a shit what I lose. I lost my acting career. I went homeless. I lost my family, my friends, everything. But I said nothing is more important than knowing the truth, because I thought I wanted to know the truth as a Scientologist, but it was a narcissistic spirituality. It was a narcissistic, ego-driven. I hope Scientology helps with my acting career and can make me meet more casting directors and shit. They didn't do shit for my acting career, by the way, but they do have people that can kind of, are hooked up in that area. It was a narcissistic journey the whole way. So Scientology and L. Ron fucked me so bad that it made me want to know so badly the truth, whatever it is. So I stopped making it what I wanted it to be. And I just started researching and figuring shit out. And like I said, that was just my route. But if you come out of Scientology, it probably is a great idea to see a psychologist, at least somebody that they need to know about cults and shit.
Or
Dave,
try it. Or like, it doesn't hurt to try it. And if it's not for you and you got to go a different way, right?
Right, or find the right one. I guess it's just finding the right one. I'm just saying,
it's such a niche case. And I think that like maybe, if I went and saw a psychologist and they didn't know about Scientology, I'd just like assign them homework and be like, here, I want you to know what they think about your profession before we start. Right. But that's me thinking as me now. Too. That's not me thinking as somebody who just got out of a cult. Like, I don't know. Like it's
no, that's good thinking. I said the same thing. I was trying to educate them and give them homework to do and shit. Again, I probably just didn't find the right person. There's people that specialize in this, and you can find them. I didn't have any fucking money, dude. I'm living out of my car. So it was just like, let me just read books and figure it out myself rather than, trying to explain it to somebody else. Dude, it was a brutal route. I don't recommend it because, like, I wanted to fucking suicide myself. I probably could have used some fucking help. It took fucking probably twice as long. But at least I didn't, the one thing I wanted to avoid is these groups that we were talking about earlier where you never actually fully get out. It's always going to stay with you. You're going to be in another clique now, and you're going to think you're out of Scientology, but you're not at all. And you still think the same. So the reason I know that I deprogrammed from Scientology, at least I hit a milestone, is because the way that I fucking perceive and think is so not like a Scientologist. It's so different that it's not a part of me at all. And I mean, maybe a little bit, I guess, but it's just gone. Like they say in Scientology, you're trying to delete, your subconscious mind. Well, I looked at this whole process as deleting this man's voice in my head and replacing it with my own authentic voice, and I didn't want to like shortcut that by holding on to anything that was false needed to go. And by the time I was done stripping down all of Scientology, that's when I realized, my God, from beginning to end, this entire thing is a setup. And everything was done by a psychopath where he flipped all the concepts 180 degrees. And then, so you have to flip your personality 180 degrees back. Also, I didn't even become the person that I was before this experience. It made me an actual better person. That's why I don't regret the experience. Because once you get burned this bad, you learn to kind of, it just opened my fucking eyes, dude. It really did. Anyways, back to the vocabulary. We were like flag and
we could do one more. What are dynamics?
Dynamics. You're taught in Scientology that every human being has 8 natural thrusts that they survive through. First of all, one of the stupidest, most erroneous things that L. Ron Hubbard throws out right before you're introduced to the dynamics is that he was brilliant enough to discover the one thing that every human being has, no matter who you are, and that's the urge to survive. He says no matter what else man is doing, he's trying to survive. I think there's a little bit more to people than just trying to survive, but when I look back at that, by the way, that sounds very Nazi-oriented. That sounds very like we're going to make you work and be a slave-oriented. It doesn't take into account that you might have creative desires, other things. You just have the urge to get through this goddamn sojourn called life and get the fuck out as pain-free as possible. So with that idea of you need to survive, the 8 dynamics are all the different areas where he said every human being has a natural urge to survive through. The first one is the urge to survive through yourself. The second one is through the family, through the sex act, and through creativity. And the third one is to survive through groups, etc. And it gets bigger and bigger. It goes up to, groups, mankind. And then when you get up to the top, that's the urge that every human being has to survive through God or infinity, whatever you make of that. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother area to talk about when it comes to Scientology as to whether or not they believe in God and all that shit.
Yeah. So I think jokingly we call it here OT9. That's what L. Ron went to whenever they're like, oh, he shed his mortal coil and went to the fucking, now he's researching Scientology and space and shit.
Ashley, you're not a real Scientologist, because if you had done the levels, you would know that L. Ron Hubbard specifically went to Target 2, because now that he's handled this one, no, this is straight data, dude, I'm giving you. This is straight data from L. Ron himself. He's off on Target 2. See, he doesn't want to just clear this planet, annihilate this planet. There's Target 2, which he's said to be at right now. So he's actually spreading the virus known as Scientology, probably to Mars or Venus, or maybe even an alternate dimension that we don't know about. But this motherfucker's not done until Scientology's spread all over the multiverse. So think about how long he's going to be busy. And can you see now why you need to have people sign a billion-year contract? Because
Right.
once you drop the body here, they got to get their ass on Target 2 and meet up with that motherfucker and continue the job. This is serious business, guys. I don't know why you're fucking laughing.
They reassigned. Hey, check it out. They
Clear.
reassigned. They didn't kill. So they didn't kill Lisa McPherson. They just reassigned her to Target 2.
That's all it is, dude. You see, the SPs have it totally wrong. If you understood the spiritual side of Scientology, you'd realize we didn't murder her, dude. We put her on Target 2, where she's much safer, and L. Ron was calling for her. They really do. They really do. When you get disassociated, you'll buy reframings like that when you're at the OT levels. Yeah, I can't pay my mortgage, and my wife just moved out because she said I'm addicted like heroin to this Scientology shit. Dude, that's just the fucking entity that you haven't gotten rid of on your next session that's fucking telling your wife to leave. Just get your ass in there, fucking audit out the entity, and she'll come back.
Jeez.
This is the kind of thinking, brother. This is how I was thinking when I was up on OT3. I thought, if I just send it, you want to hear a real example? It's embarrassing, dude, but this is the way it goes, man. I know I'm not the only one that does this shit. I was an actor and I wasn't working up until I got out of Scientology, remarkably. But so I used to, in my OT sessions, I used to send beings to casting directors and to people outside in Los Angeles to make them get me a job. Again, that's really embarrassing to admit. It's so stupid and ridiculous. But I and other Scientologists believe, but by the power of postulates, by your mind, and using these beings that have been fucking with you for so long, why not send them off and put them to work, dude? Why not have them get you jobs? Why not have them serve your narcissistic goals and shit? Dude, this is what people are doing on these OT levels. Tom Cruise, when he's going in there, he's handling that upset that he had the other day by some unbelievable, weird, psychedelic mental gymnastics along the lines of what I just described to you, dude. They're not going out.
Satan's on you paying rent.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy, though? Like the power of our minds, Ashley, like we believe a little bit, then we believe a little bit more. Before you know it, I'm actually believing that that's really what needs to be handled.
The power of love and fear drive fucking everything. And not knowing what happens to you when you die or your purpose on this planet will make people do everything.
You're so right.
And it's like when you fucking stop worrying about shit that you can't control and you just focus on what's going on right now, that's like, then you're free. Then you're free.
Well
and it's you just fucking
you're so right, though, man. I mean, like that, it's exactly what hooked me. It's like, God damn it, like everybody else, I need to know the answers. I need to know a framework. Everybody has a fear of death. We're all going to fucking die someday. And like I said, this sojourn doesn't even last that long. So there's the unknown. You have questions that you can't help but having. And something like Scientology that says they have it all covered, they have it all figured out. It's like, no wonder people wouldn't fall for something, either Scientology specifically or anything that promises, as they say, certainty. Certainty is the big fucking button, man.
That's the I think certainty to some degree is like the reason that a lot of people end up in conspiracy communities too, because they sell one thing, they sell like the question everything, but what they're telling you is the fucking answer in like a conspiracy community.
It's exactly what L. Ron Hubbard said. He said, nothing's true for you unless you've observed it yourself. And he says, don't ever believe anything that I say. He also said he wasn't hypnotizing you. Just like any psychopath, they're already going to dead agent, as they would say, the argument, so that when they are doing those things to you, you won't recognize it. You know what I mean? Like, I think the whole conspiracy thing, like, you starts out with a good thing where it's like question everything. And then like L. Ron Hubbard did, as long as it's what I tell you to believe. So he's telling you question everything. And like these movements that you're talking about tell you to question everything, as long as it fits within the narrow framework that I tell you to question it within. it's not really thinking freely. It's not. That's why I told you I kind of at one point just kind of skipped the outside sources, psychologists. I'm like, let me just sit in a bubble, meditate, be with my own thoughts, and figure this out myself, because I don't want to be told what to think within anybody else's diktats. You know, and what is that QAnon thing but telling you think for yourself but don't, you know?
Right. Just wait for the little crumbs to drop, and then everybody on Twitter will decipher it, and then we'll fucking have a white nationalist rally somewhere.
It's a Dungeons and Dragons age regressed, stupid, childish way of looking at maybe a serious situation. You know, like we know there's problems. We know there's, just with Scientology, we know there's human trafficking. That's just to start one of many. So these are, to me, look like childish games that should be able to be deciphered by anybody intelligent. But again, I fell for Scientology, so I get it. But yeah, crumbs is not the way to go about a savior figure. You know, I don't think Jesus, Trump, or anybody is going to save us. Like the one thing I fucking do agree with that's religious in the Bible is the kingdom of heaven is within. Just trust your fucking self, follow your own instincts. They won't lead you astray. If I would have listened to my instincts, I would have never fell into Scientology. And that's pretty much it, you know?
Yeah, I think that it's just, what you were saying about certainty is really important. The people are like really afraid, like that nobody's really in charge. People are really afraid that we don't really know anything about ourselves or like about the human condition. And people are like, they just want somebody who tells you they do know that shit.
Totally, because it also saves you the journey of having to maybe figure that out for yourself. And who the fuck wants to burden themselves with that? It's much easier to just have somebody tell you that it is, because you don't have to wrestle with the questions that come up if you start questioning self and reality itself, right? It's a deep way to go, man, about life. If I think it's just easier to just have somebody tell you what it is, man. That was one of the things, by the way, that you bring up, that certainty, and why Scientology was so addicting and it's so hard to give up, even when you know it's a con. Because, my man, having somebody tell you your whole life what the answers are and a framework to go forward and handle all your problems within feels so incredible. It's such a hypnotic high. Being in that trance state feels so good and powerful that to let that go, the amount of vulnerability, the amount of tears, the amount of uncertainty, the amount of feeling like a horrible, being reduced to who I really was, is not an experience that I think too many people want to go through. It feels a lot better to just go with the crowd, to believe what you're told, not to do too much questioning, because God damn it, it's just easier, and the alternative is brutal. I almost half would rather, the thing that I miss about, I would never want to go back because it's hell, and I can't believe I'm alive. I'm so happy I got out. And I have that shit. I'm fucking happy now, dude. I'm not that guy anymore. It feels amazing. But at the same time, I do miss, and I remember, and I understand why the group think, because God damn it feels like you have a mother figure, but you feel protected. You feel like you still are attached to your mother. You know, L. Ron Hubbard was just my mother or father figure that I didn't feel connected to. And to let that go, I had to literally let go of my parents for the rest of my life. They're not coming back. They're going to be Scientologists for the rest of their lives. So to break that natural bond and to let the mother go in the way of L. Ron Hubbard, my mother literally took me into a place of darkness that took years to work through to break that connection. That's so unnatural and so bizarre, like I said, psychedelic. That, dude, I understand why people join QAnon and why they need Trump and Jesus to save them, because it's so much easier to go that route, because the alternative route to go into the unknown is fucking horribly frightening, dude. But you can live through it, man. I fucking did. I'm okay living with uncertainty. Like my button, the word I love now is uncertainty. I don't need certainty anyways. Like that's ridiculous. Like I'm okay with going with the flow of life. I don't need to fucking know the answers for everything. And also I found out that everything flows fucking just fine that way. There's nothing to worry about. Like it was needing certainty that started this whole goddamn thing to begin with, you know?
Oh, and if there is something to worry about, I mean, you'll figure out along the way that the thing needs to be worried about. I mean,
right.
That's like that's the point.
Exactly. But I mean, again, dude, it's hard to do. I can't do it 100% myself. So I'm never going to be able to look down on people that do need a group or Jesus or Trump to save them, because I fucking was in the same position and I get it. I would just be, I do have a secret wish though, that people would go on the sojourn and the adventure and kind of break away from the group or their belief system and try it and see what happens if you really start to try to think for yourself. Because I got forced into that position. It wasn't something that I had a choice, but it's the greatest gift I ever got. You know, I heard somebody say once that life gives you your greatest gifts brilliantly disguised as your worst nightmare. Scientology was my worst nightmare, but by having to separate out from my belief systems, my family, and all these other ways that, you know, I'm supposed to think, it's the greatest gift that I've ever gotten. Because even though it's ironic that even though I feel relatively free in my mind, I lost everything for that privilege. Because, you know, if I wanted to keep my family, I needed to remain a Scientologist or at least shut the fuck up about it. And I can't go on that journey of finding out who I am if I go that route. So my life was set up from the beginning. As soon as my parents got into Scientology, or anybody that joins a cult, they're going to have to make a choice, because their life is set up. Do you want to live a groupthink life of hell where you're not going to be able to think for yourself and it's going to be dictated for you, which you'll feel wonderful, you'll feel comfortable, and you'll be none the wiser? Or are you going to have a midlife crisis and break away from that and go through hell and hopefully live and get on the other side of it where you don't have to be part of a lie? So it's like, dude, the choice that my parents gave me is pretty brutal. And any Scientologist or any cult member or person that's born into a belief system, they have their work cut out for them. I would love it if we didn't put that on our kids, man, because like, why do we have to spend our life going through that process I just described? Why can't we be left alone to figure out our own things and be guided but not indoctrinated? Because the world would be so much better. We wouldn't have to have a midlife crisis, break down our belief systems. We would just start out that way. Yep. Maybe that's utopia, dude, but I don't understand why we brainwash our kids in school and we fucking just teach them all sorts of ways to hate and religious bullshit. It's like, it's much simpler than that, man.
One of us, one of us, one of us, one of us. Before we move on, what's the OSA?
The OSA is the CIA unit that you talked about when you were talking about the videos that you put out on the Scientology.
You were saying the OSA was coming for you.
That really helped, by the way, dude, because it's like, dude, I mean, you know what's so funny about all this? Like, I have had a decent amount of people send emails and stuff. If I don't put out a video for a couple of weeks, they think the fucking, like OSA snagged me or whatever. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen to fucking people. It does. But the thing is, I don't even know how to explain this, but the thing is, like, they really do operate on a culture of fear. And if you just aren't afraid of them, there's not a lot they can fucking do, dude. I mean, yeah, they took everything from me. I'm not rich, I don't have anything to lose. They already took it once. I could handle that. It's like there's nothing that they could fucking do to me, even if they fucking killed me. Like I said, they took me beyond. You'd be dead,
and then after they killed you, you'd be dead, and you wouldn't care anymore. Yeah,
it's kind of like that though, Dave. When I talk about what it was like getting out, they pushed me beyond the fear of death. I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, I don't want to die, dude. I want to especially stay around as long as possible, especially now. But for a while, I did want to get the fuck out of here, and absolutely, I thought about suicide quite a bit. But they pushed me beyond that. So it's like, I not only don't fear them, I want to help them out. I know it's like trying to help out a wounded tiger, but they are almost all simply brainwashed. They're just victims. They do what they do because they've had their reality reframed. It's not necessarily that they're bad people. So, I don't anticipate them ever doing anything. If they do, so be it. I don't give a shit, Like I said, I think that one of the reasons if everybody that was affected by Scientology, and I understand there's circumstances where you can't do this because you want to hang on to your family or whatever. But that's why I said I don't give a fuck what the cost is. Like, the more people that speak out about this will be gone yesterday. If people would have spoke about any abuses that we had in history and stood up and said, call it out, and not do that, we wouldn't have an abusive society, dude. So it's like Scientology could be gone not by the government or Trump saving it. If enough people spoke out, even the ex-Scientologists, and they just kind of, I'm not telling them what to do, but again, do you want to hang on to your family? Like, how much does it mean to you? If enough people just did what was right, I feel, and called out what's going on, this thing would have been gone before I incarnated here. That's what's kind of irritating. It's like, I do feel a little bit responsible to finish off this story and show how the trick is done, because I'm not going to take down Scientology. There's people that, I just started this shit. There's people that have been doing this forever. I'm not going to do shit, but I'm saying I could do my little part. And then if everybody did their little part, everybody, they would be gone, dude. It's the fact that they scare people or they threaten them with, you have something to lose. But they took me where I have nothing to lose. So they can't take anything from me. And like I said, even if they off me, which they won't. Another thing is, dude, I found out we do have a little bit more power than we give ourselves credit for. Like they just make you give your mind and your fear and your power to them. But once you take that back, you do realize that you're in control of your own mind and your own life. And they're actually brainwashed, scared, ineffective, not powerful people. They just make you think that they are. You know, I know that sounds kind of esoteric, but really they don't have any power. That's why they have money and lawyers and all this shit. They're very scared, vulnerable, like they live in lies and they don't live with the truth. So they're always subject to being taken down at any moment. That's why I'm saying if people spoke the truth, everybody that got abused by them all came out at one time and didn't give a shit what they lost, then there would be no abuse. And Scientology wouldn't be here, irregardless of Trump or the next, clone that we have come in that's going to save us all. We don't need to wait for Jesus to descend from a cloud. We need to just fucking do what's right.
Well, I'm very glad that we are stream buddies, and someday when we're allowed to be around people again, we should be IRL buddies and clink some glasses and have some beers and do the hangout thing, because that would be fucking awesome.
I would absolutely love to meet you guys. Thank you very much, Dave and Ashley. I really appreciate it. And if the world ever does resume back to something where we can exit our little cocoons, let's make good on that. That far away.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. We could like not live stream it and just go have dinner. It'd be fantastic.
Right.
Well, Doug, thanks for joining us again. This has been super fun. We asked you some questions about our vocabulary words. We talked about some other things. We made some controversy, made friends, influenced people, and it's been fucking fantastic. We'll have you on again in a couple months. And if you ever need us to say something silly in any of your videos, just let us know what we need to say, and we'll get a little video over to you, and you can edit us right in saying something stupid in your video. Somebody in the chat is asking about your shirt.
Oh yeah, Cannibal Corpse.
Cannibal Corpse. Great fucking band.
Cannibal Corpse. Very nice. I have this on, by the way, is because that kind of reminds me of Scientology. I tend to wear shirts that remind me of Scientology, and there you go. It's all the bodies strung up and all the death and blood and destruction that they have on their hands, while at the same time they're absolutely hilarious. What a dichotomy.
Well, shit, that's as good a place to end it as any. Where can people find you on YouTube?
Dazed But Not Confused. That's the name of the channel.
Fucking A. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, man.
Oh, Scientology.
Party at the Church of Scientology. There's a place in Florida where you've got friends. We'll help you present if you give us those ends. Party at the Church of Scientology. Don't call it a cult, you just don't understand. Write us a check and take our hand. Party at the Church of Scientology.